Today, I will be teaching you how to do all of the most important shortcuts, secret paths, and strategies to help you win in Mario Kart World on all 30 tracks. And yes, I am speaking as I play. I just want to show you that the stuff we're going to learn today, it's all very consistent. And these are things that you want to learn if you want to get better at this game and do better on all the tracks. We're not going to be looking at super risky strategies like this little trick right there. Oh, I drifted the wrong way. Yeah, stuff like that you're not really going to do in real races because it's just too risky, too difficult, or it doesn't save enough time. Not looking at those. But stuff like this is going to be what you always want to be doing online, like taking this glider onto this rail. All right, so I will actually teach these in a sec. I just want to show you like kind of what we're getting ourselves into this video. This is a very important shortcut. That tire usually doesn't come with me. Yeah, so let's just slow down right here and go through that again. So let's break down what I just did there. As you approach the rail on the right, you can trick on this dark portion on the ground. I'm not tricking on the rail, I'm tricking on the ground. Then ride the rail until you're facing directly towards the next rail on the left side. At this point, you can trick off and keep holding R to charge a charge jump. Then charge jump to the left to get on this rail. Now keep in mind with all rail strategies, you can go for more tricks sometimes, and you mostly want to memorize where to do these and don't improvise them. Because if you don't do it quite right, you can easily fall off the rail and it's very punishing. If you find any rail strategies to be too difficult in this video, just reduce the number of unnecessary tricks. You will be slower, but at least it's easier for you to learn at first. Now, one thing you may not expect to be difficult is this ending glider, because if you just take this glider normally and try to move over to the rail here, it is very, very difficult. Yeah, I think I landed it, but it is very tough. What you want to do instead is take the glider from as far left as possible, like this. And then now you're mostly moving in a straight line and you can make small adjustments. And you want to land on this rail here. And of course, this is very easy. You just mushroom through the tires and you make it onto this shortcut. Then you just have to hop out around here, and then everything else is the same. You definitely want to avoid the rails sometimes if it's going to be too risky, like on lap 3 you could get shocked or if you're about to get hit, but in general this is the fastest path on Mario Bros. Circuit. Crown City has 3 laps that are all different from each other, so it's very important to memorize the layout. But once you get into this very narrow section, this is where the first shortcut is coming up. It's right after these 2 ramps. So it's very important here that you do not get 2 tricks off of these ramps as you think you might should, because then you're not well lined up to take the shortcut. If you have mushrooms at this section, then what you should do instead is trick off the first one and then drift off this one. And then now you can enter this and release an orange mini turbo right at the end of the grass. There's one mistake that's very easy to make here, and that is holding this drift too long. If you mushroom through the off-road here and then try to hold that for a better mini turbo, see how I come out with no mini turbo? If you watch the successful version of that, I released the orange mini turbo when I was still in the grass. Yeah, the mushroom is not big enough for this grass patch, so you have to release that mini turbo early before the grass cancels your drift. Now, as you're driving down this straight line towards the next section, you do want to get tricks on these rails here. However, I'm not going to be talking too much about this sort of stuff, like what's fastest at every section. If you want to know those, you can go check out the Mario Kart World Records channel, and that'll show you everything. But today we're just looking at things that are shortcuts or things you may not know. Now, this is not too important, but on this turn right before the glider, you can actually go off the blue part a bit earlier and get a trick. That's a little bit faster, not too important though. Now, at the start of lap 3, you can cut a bit inside here, and now we have 2 really big shortcuts. So if you have mushrooms, this is very important. You want to take this shortcut, and then just align yourself straight as you come out so you can take the next one easily. All right, and then next up, we actually have a little charge jump onto this section here, and then you can just keep riding this until the end. Left trick before the ending. Oh, I got an extra trick by accident. That's fine, though. And then you want to aim for that tree. So I want to try to see if I can get a fast version here. You can actually get 1 extra trick here, but not necessary. Yeah, aim for the tree. It's a bit tough at first. There you go. Now, there is one more thing you could fail there, and I just want to show it. I'm going to try to go too far left here and hit the wall. Yeah, if you hit the wall, very important, do not trick off of that wall. If you see what I did there? If I hit the wall, what I do is I just let myself ride the wall until I'm done. That way I keep going in a straight line. If you trick off that wall, you end up flying to the right, and that's not good. Next up is Whistlestop Summit, and this one's actually quite difficult with a lot of alternate paths and shortcuts. So, you could go forward, but if you're starting further back or further left, or it's just lap 2 or 3, you can take this path instead. and this is faster. You want to get onto either one of these rails at the bottom here, and then, you know, trick wherever you're comfortable with, but if you don't know where to trick, just don't trick. And that gives you a single item box while also taking a very fast path. Then this path, of course, very simple. You just go wherever the coins are. Now, there is a faster way to take this section if you don't need an item box, and that is to take the left rail, and as soon as you can, trick to the left here, and ride this rail. Then between the paint chips on that pipe, you trick to the right, and then that is the fastest way to take the section, but it does skip an item box. Now, I know some people, especially those who have just started watching Mario Kart World, you watch these rails and you're like, wow, that's so easy. You just go on the rail and then you just start tricking and it's so easy. Oh, okay. Yeah, this stuff is very difficult, and the rails definitely do not drive for you. So unless you have practiced specific tricks on rails, do not go for them. Because if you do something like this, your race is just over. And then if you go a little bit too late, you just lost a whole bunch of time. So make sure that you know exactly where you're doing these tricks and that you've practiced them. Because it is very, very risky when you fail a trick. If you don't trick left here early enough, oh, you are off the track again. Now, for this straight rail section, no matter which rail you're coming from, as you trick off the last part of the rail, you can just hold R for a charge jump, and then you can do this little wall jump shortcut. So fun. Shroomless shortcuts. So the most important part about this one is to aim for that little patch of grass that's sticking up in the ground when you charge jump. Then just charge jump to the left, and then wall jump, and you should be good. Now, this last section is very complex with a lot of options. So the simplest thing you can do is to just get off of the rail, and there's going to be some items right here. So this works, but it's not the fastest. If you instead just continue to ride these rails, then you can actually access some items right here as well. And you can keep doing more tricks wherever you're comfortable with it. But of course, this is a lot harder than it looks to actually hit all of these tricks. Now, if you don't need an item, then I will show you the fastest path you can take here. And just slow-mo the video and rewatch everything I'm doing here, because there is way too much to go over, and it takes so much practice. Yeah, there you go. And then there's another mushroom shortcut right here at the bottom. Of course, this path is very difficult, and I will add 2 tips for you if you're struggling. First is you can ride this yellow rail to the end here, and that makes it much easier to get onto this rail. Now here, this is very important. Watch what I do right here. This is really bad. This is the worst thing that can happen if you take that path, is you get stuck on the rails and it puts you on a horrible line. Now, the reason that didn't happen the first time that I did it is when you trick off of the bottom rail and get onto the train tracks, you're probably going to land on the left rail, and you want to get off the left rail as soon as you can. So at this curved section of the left rail, when you're pointing directly at the right rail, this is where you should trick forward. This puts you on the right rail, and now you can get off whenever you want. But there is more to Whistlestop Summit, because I am in free roam here to show you feather shortcuts. Yeah, you may not think the feather is a very good item just from your own use of it, but once you start learning the feather shortcuts, it can sometimes be one of the best items, because look at this! You just feather on the ground and trick, and you take the biggest shortcut on the track. The feathers are pretty common in free roam from the items, and if you rewind, you get it back, so you can practice this way. And feather shortcuts are super important because you can get the feather in first place while you cannot get mushrooms. So it can be your only way to take shortcuts to gain a lead. And there's another one here as well. In the middle of the pipe here, you right trick, don't trick feather, and then you make it onto this path, and you get to skip that entire grass shortcut that you would have taken otherwise. So yeah, feather shortcuts, really fun, very useful too, and if you want to learn more, Watson has a video on a whole bunch of feather shortcuts that he discovered. So if you want to go check those out, go ahead. I will show some here that I think are the most important. On DK Spaceport, there's this shortcut right at the start, and I honestly don't recommend going for this because you're probably going to get bumped. You have to start really wide, curve in, and then mini turbo trick. It's actually not too hard once you figure out the alignment you have to do, but you can easily get bumped. So unless you're playing like the intermission towards DK Spaceport, I personally wouldn't go for that. But then this one you have to go for. You just go off these nails right there and you take a little gap jump shortcut. Now, obviously, there are mushroom shortcuts on every turn. So every single turn. I'm not going to explain that. Now, DK Spaceport also has feather shortcuts, as you may have been able to guess just by looking at these, and you can cut these by a lot. Just like that. Now, every time you use a feather, make sure you also trick in midair to get a speed boost. And it's pretty much the same for all of these. Now for this rail section, the feather shortcut works a bit differently because there's not a lot of room to get between the wall and the grass, and if you touch the grass, then you lose all of your feather speed. I mean, it still works, but it's not great because the feather only puts you at the speed you were already moving at. It doesn't speed you up. So instead, what you can do is don't trick right here, but trick in the air. Then you can easily line up for that. Now, that is a bit risky because you could get bumped, but if you have a lot of space, that's something you can go for. Now, Desert Hills is a bagging track, and a lot of the driving's pretty simple. It's just most important that you know where all the big shortcuts are. So this one is the biggest shortcut on the track, and you only need one mushroom to get through. It does skip the items though. Then if you have enough speed items, you can just keep going and going here, and then you can make it all the way past the finish line right here. That's the most important thing to do on lap 3, and you can sometimes do it earlier, but you don't have to because lap 3 is where it's very important to make your catch up. In fact, the shock or lightning often does hit on lap 3, and so here's what you want to do. If you have a shock dodge item like the star, bullet, mega mushroom, or boo, you either want to use it into this item set right here, and then that protects you until you get through this shortcut, or the other thing that you can try to do with your dodge item is you can skip this item and instead use your dodge item into this shortcut, like right here. And then now you can take the shortcut. If you get shocked, you're all good, and you just go to the finish line. Now, if you do get shocked even earlier right here, it's bad, but at least you can just come around and grab an item and start shortcutting through the end anyway. So there's a few options of what to do there, and it takes a lot of skill to be able to guess what your opponents might be up to with the shock, but those are some of the most important things you want to try out on lap 3. You can't always make the right decision, but you can do what would be best for you most often. Shy Guy Bazaar has a crazy beginning section. You don't always want to go for this, but look at what you can do. With the start boost, go to the right and trick off this little bump, and you are on the rails. You are now rail grinding. You are going as fast as possible. This is the fastest route at the start. However, it's very risky because you could get bumped off by other racers, and it also depends on your starting position because you may not be positioned close enough to it because you're not always going to be starting in the same spot like you would be in time trials. However, it is something you definitely have to know because at the end of the track, you should pretty much always go for this unless, again, it's too risky. So you can do a mushroom shortcut through here, but even if you don't have a mushroom, same thing. You just do an orange mini turbo through here, and then trick, don't trick, trick. Oh, I missed a trick, but it's fine. Most important thing is that you get on this rail and then start taking these ropes. This is super duper fast. Now, there's a few important things I want to point out there. Number one is after the off-road shortcut, you have to focus on aligning towards the rail, and you probably need to turn right further than you think. If you trick on every ramp, you actually won't get to turn as much. So if you need to turn more, just skip some tricks and it'll make it easier to get on. The next part is how I trick onto the rope. The safest method is in the later half of this last straight section of the red rail, you just do a trick and you will be sent to the second rope. Now there is actually a faster method where you trick later and you get a more straight alignment, but it's a tougher timing, and if you're not confident with it, then I recommend the safer method. And there is one more piece of advice I will give here, because if you do miss the rail, which can happen, let's see, let me miss this on purpose. You can actually start charging a charge jump and then right trick to the right. So when you trick to get on that rail, no matter what, just keep holding R for a sec, because just in case you missed it, you will start charging a charge jump. Wario Stadium, honestly, one of the toughest tracks in the game to learn from the start, because there are just so many options you have at every section, and all of them can be quite difficult. So I'll start by showing you the fastest, easy method you can do. So that is to get on these walls, be as parallel as possible when you get onto the walls, that way you get less airtime when you trick off. And then here, you pretty much just drive and trick. Pretty simple stuff, but of course we will look at some more complicated stuff for this section later. It gets pretty intense. Yeah, lots of alternate paths we are just passing by. And here you just trick. Very, very simple stuff. Here, this is important. You charge jump onto this boost panel and release it right before the grates. And this actually makes you go a lot faster. Not too hard to do either. Then you just get around these turns. Even the shortcut's not the easiest thing in the world. But yeah, that is a normal lap of Wario Stadium. Now here's what it looks like if you want to do a more complicated version. Try not to embarrass myself. There we go. I know, I'm just showing off, but I don't get a lot of opportunities. Nice. Yeah, doing some mushroom shortcuts, because these are the harder things. And there we go. That is the actual Wario Stadium. I just saved 4 seconds compared to lap 1. All right, let's look at how to do that stuff. This shortcut is really tough, and it actually starts all the way back at the finish line. On these first 2 ramps, don't trick on the ramp, but instead just drive off and trick in the air. This gives you a shorter trick boost, but less airtime, which is important. Then when you drive off the final ramp, angle as directly towards the wall as you can. This will send you higher up on the wall. Then whenever you can, spam left trick off of the rail. Next up, again, you want to angle yourself towards this wall to ride it higher, and when you get onto the rail, close to the corners of the rail, you want to right trick and then left trick. Of course, those tricks are optional, but one trick that is not optional is the one right before you launch off. Right around this gray thing in the rail is where you should do one more trick, and you're going to carry some of this trick boost into the launch off of the rail. Then left trick on the black part, and this is the hardest part of it all. If you don't get this one quite right, you will either barely save time compared to the regular route, or you will fall off the track. Because what happens is, if you trick too early, you will not get enough airtime and you are guaranteed to fall out of bounds. If you trick too late, you will have different trick properties, because if you trick at the end of a rail, it counts as a different type of trick. You will get a longer speed boost when you land from this type of trick, but you will not get as much airtime and control over your direction. But even if you hit that timing, you're not quite done yet, because as soon as you get into the air, you need to start holding right. So it's a left trick followed by holding right. Now these extra tricks that I do here, you don't actually have to do these extra tricks, but it's a right trick and a down trick. That's just me showing you which directions I'm holding at this point. Then when you're about to land on the rail, you have to start turning left. Because if you're not facing enough left, you will not be able to ride the rail. You'll just fall off of it. And if you did all of that just right, you can now breathe a sigh of relief. This can be 100% consistent, but it is still one of the most difficult shortcuts in the game. If you're going for this, there are a lot of things that can fail. And so when you practice, one of the most important things is watching back a video of a successful version and being able to identify what you are doing differently. The learning process for this shortcut, at least how it went for me, was that in the beginning, what I was doing felt very random and I couldn't really control where I was going. But over time, this shortcut started to look more and more similar every single time I did it, and now it's mostly 100% consistent. It took me over a week of practicing this every single day to be able to make it very consistent. Now, if you don't plan to learn that shortcut, don't be discouraged. I hope you just come away from that thinking, wow, this game is cool. There's a lot of cool stuff. But it's not that important, unless you're against really good players, because here, right here, you can grab an item, and then you can do this. It's not much slower than going on the top path. And then you get to get another item right here. So unless you're front running, like right here's the item. Unless you're front running, that top path is not that crucial. However, there are some useful paths here. If you ride up this wall very far to the left here, you get up top and then you can grab some coins. This is a very useful path. And then, like I showed earlier, if you have a mushroom, this is a tight timing, but if you mini turbo around here, charge jump, and then mushroom charge jump onto the wall, you can get all the way up here. And then just don't touch anything until you fall off and trick in the air. That is also a very good path. It is technically possible to do that without a mushroom, but don't go for it in a regular race. There is one more path. This is not that consistent, but it is the fastest path if you don't care about coins and you don't have a mushroom. It's like this, ride the wall twice. Yup. Very fast, but it's a little bit inconsistent, so I wouldn't go for it unless you're very confident with it. All right, now for the final shortcut. It can be a little bit tricky to do this one fast, but I would just say err on the side of going left. Don't get a mini turbo, and then it's okay if you hit that part. Just release your blue mini turbo early in there. That's how you guarantee a good alignment. What you really want to avoid, I'll show you 2 things at once that you want to avoid during that shortcut. So we do a little charge jump here. 2 things you want to avoid. First is do not get this mini turbo, and then you go super duper wide. That is bad. It is okay to hit the wall. It is not okay to go super wide because that is really, really slow. Airship Fortress has a very risky rail at the start. Honestly, only go for this if you're safe on lap 2 and 3. So you aim for the rail, harder than it looks, and then optional tricks. At the middle of the turn, you trick to the right. Make sure you don't trick too late. And then here, little extra trick, very risky. And yeah, the most important part here is right here. At this final diagonal section, you want to make sure you do a neutral trick and not trick to the right or left. Then you will make that entire section. That was probably way too much to take in if that's your first time seeing it. So I will show you this entire sequence again, but only with the tricks that you absolutely need to nail. Everything else is optional that just makes you go faster. So none of this is necessary here. And then this right trick, none of this is necessary. Trick off the end here. And then none of this is necessary, but neutral trick on the final section. That is how you take it, and then add in those extra tricks as you get more comfortable with the most important tricks. Now, as you come out of this tower, there is a mushroom shortcut, and I'm going to show you the easy version to do it first. The easy version is, of course, you just mushroom through here, and you barely save any time, but you can get an orange mini turbo back onto this next rail. The faster version, and if you're practicing this, you might want to come all the way back up to here to make sure you get this rainbow mini turbo, because this actually makes it a little bit more difficult, is as you exit, you get a charge jump, and then you mushroom and left jump right there, and that puts you right on the rail. It looks like you have a horrible alignment, but then the rail just fixes it, and that is extremely fast. DK Pass feels like it's pretty simple with just off-road shortcuts, but there's actually a lot going on here. So at the start here, you don't even need to like do mini turbos or anything. You can just drive straight at this pole, trick, and it auto tricks on the pole for you. Very important shortcut at the start. And then here, this is a pretty good one. You charge jump at this pole, and then it just puts you up here. And then just trick after you get into the air. Then this one, never go for this one unless you're like super confident with it. Oh wow, I actually made it. Oh, I kind of messed up the ending. Yeah, that one's so tough. And then, of course, there is this ending shortcut, which is the most important one on the track, and I will explain all of this as we go. Yeah, and then you can get a rainbow mini turbo coming out of that. Super duper fun track, but very tough to learn everything. I will say, though, for this first shortcut, you can easily get bumped off or get hit and just fall off the track, so definitely skip it if you're not feeling safe. It's not a huge time save, but this next one, it's not too bad. You want to charge jump and just make sure you're not like aiming directly at the wall. See how I can't ride the wall? And then another thing that you could mess up is trying to steer so much that you charge jump in a direction. Oh, I didn't even know those were rails. Yeah, so you want to make sure that you do steer to align yourself, but go 45 degrees at the wall and just do a neutral charge jump. And this should get you up for free pretty much. Now this next part, don't feel pressured into going for that shortcut. It's very, very difficult, and the double item box is right over here. There's also single item boxes just along this ramp. So if you still want to do a shortcut, it's very important that you get these items for mushrooms for the ending, but if you still want to do a shortcut, you can actually just go here. And then align for this tree, and it still takes you around. You can still do exactly the same ending to that shortcut, and it is much, much easier. Then for this ending, drift slightly into the off-road before using the mushroom, and then that'll get you through the whole thing. Otherwise, you actually just lose your drift at the end of it. So here's what it looks like if you try to use your mushroom as soon as you enter the off-road. And my drift is gone. Now, again, the double tree shortcut is not something you really want to go for often, but if you do want to learn how to do it, here is how I do it, and I'm not so consistent at it, so just keep that in mind. Before the end of the rail, I trick to the left, and I try not to hold left the whole time. I try to land slightly lower on the wall. Then right before the dark line on the wall, I trick to the right and aim towards the tree. And when I'm almost at the tree, then I start holding left on the stick. And this helps to bring me back towards the next tree. And then from there, it's just a matter of hitting the trick directions that help you go where you're trying to go. It's definitely not as simple as I'm making it sound. There are many adjustments I have to make in midair depending on how it's going. And that's what makes it so difficult. So for skipping an item box and being so risky, it's definitely something I wouldn't go for very much. Okay, I expected that to be all, but a new strategy has been discovered on DK Pass. Now, obviously, this video is coming out like a month after the game came out, so it's not gonna include everything forever. I will make an updated version of this at some point, but yeah, here we go. New strategy on DK Pass. Let's see, go really far left here, get on the wall. And then get off right there. Yes, okay. That was fine, that was fine. Now, see where the snowball is right here? It's coming so late. This is so much faster than what I usually do going around. And then you can still do all the crazy stuff that comes afterwards. If you were thinking like, oh, new strategy, I don't have to learn the later strategies. Nope, you still gotta learn them. Because, oh, this is so cool. There's so much stuff to do on DK Pass. And yeah, so I guess now I will teach you how to do that one as well. For this shortcut, the higher handling stat you have, the easier it will be, but it still works with something like King Boo. When you drift around this turn, you want to start wide and then stay as close to the off-road on the left as possible. Do a charge jump and aim for around that middle vertical line. You also want to be aiming around 45 degrees at the wall, and then you'll start riding the wall. Now, slightly before you get to the dark line in the wall, this is when you want to jump off. And right after you jump off, just hold left and keep spamming tricks to push you further and further to the left. Now, some common mistakes you could run into here, I'll show you one first. This is probably the most common one. You could hit the wall like this and you don't get a wall ride because you're going too directly at the wall. And it's tough because you want to get like kind of a 45-degree angle at the wall, but the more directly you go, the higher you go. If you go like too parallel like this, you actually don't make it up the wall. That's just standard wall mechanics. It's not this wall in particular. But if you get a little bit too low, it's actually okay. You don't end up in quite as good of a spot, but when you trick off, you'll end up on this rail. Just neutral trick off the ending and drive. Do not drift. You'll end up with a better line this way. And yeah, so that's how you save yourself if it's not quite good. Next up is Starview Peak, and there's pretty much only one very important shortcut, and that is the one coming up. Now, you want to grab these boosters, and then as you go through here, you want to charge jump, and then just jump to the right, and try to land on the rail. Now, of course, if you're new to this, just don't aim for the rail, but yeah, you want to air slightly to the left side, just in case you have trouble getting that. But it really is as straightforward as it looks. Now, Starview Peak also has a feather shortcut, and just like the other one, it's pretty easy as long as you practice it. You just go here, feather, and then you land right on the glider panel for the speed boost. On Sky High Sundae, you typically want to take the glider, but there is this alternate rail path for coins. And anytime you touch a coin, you just trick, trick, trick. Oh, I missed one. It's actually very tough to get all of them, I found. But yeah, and then you land on this rail here. You can even take a shortcut. Aim very, very far left. Then when you mini turbo trick, you'll just land on the rail, and it completely fixes your alignment. Then right here, if you take this middle path, you can break these boxes and take a little shortcut down the middle. And then finally, at the ending, this is the most important one, but make sure you're safe because you can fall off. Make sure you trick onto here, and then you can get 2 wall tricks. There you go. That's Sky High Sundae. Way better in Mario Kart World than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. On Wario's Shipyard, there's a shortcut right at the start, and you just mini turbo around this turn and then get a charge jump. Charge jump on the boost panel, aim for the tree. Okay, that kind of works. Every time I do it, something different happens. And honestly, this is one that I'm not that good at. I don't know exactly what causes what, but I will just do it one more time for you. Clearly, it skips all of the snow, the shortcut, you know? So it's like, it's fast, but something different happens every time for me. So let's aim for the tree again. Yeah, this time I'm all the way up here. And then that's also good. Yeah, there's like a lot of ways that can happen. I don't think either of those were ideal, but let's just move on. Like, that's one thing you can do. And then here, if you charge jump right here, oh man, that's tough. And then you can trick on this tree and then chain it into this mushroom shortcut. That is the fastest way to take that entire section of Wario Shipyard. Now, the ending, also very important. You don't always go for this wall. Oops, I went way too high. Sorry. Pretend I did that correctly. But you want to aim for this rail, and then right trick before the ending, right trick before the ending. And that is the fastest way to take the ending section. Then get on this rail. And now, if you do have a mushroom, this is way, way, way easier. You go right here, and then you just mushroom drift and do a soft drift, get a mini turbo trick. That's also really, really fast because you avoid the water. And yeah, so Wario Shipyard is very difficult, especially because of the water. When you, like, this is our first water track actually. Whenever you see you're about to go up on the water, you want to just hit R, but it's extremely inconsistent. And yeah, just hit R whenever you can, because sometimes just doing that hop can put you into a situation where you dip down for the next water trick. So yeah, let's do this part correctly this time. Yeah, you want to go until your mini turbo is orange on the wall, and then aim for these. Yes, let's go now on lap 3. Instead of going for the rail here, you can go for the wall, and it's just a little bit faster. And then you go out of bounds. That was lap 2. Wario Shipyard has a really good feather shortcut, and it's right after the start. I actually learned this from Wadsum's video. So you just mini turbo trick off of here, and then feather in the air, trick again, and then you actually get the item. Like, I'm in free roam, so the items aren't correct. That item box line is actually really long, and you can get the item to immediately replace your feather. So it's pretty risk-free. Then you can also feather right here onto a rail, and that, I mean, that's pretty good, but you can do that mostly shroomless. So, and plus you just skip the other feather shortcut if you take that one. So that's not one that I think is as useful, but I don't know. I'm just speculating on that one because I haven't had many opportunities to do these ones because the feather is not a very common item. There is also one more shortcut that you can do here, although I would say this one, while it looks really good, I wouldn't say this one's that good. So you take the right path here, then in a very, very specific and difficult way, you feather up here, and then you take this. I mean, you take that turn really well. I don't think I'm supposed to get off there. I don't even do this one, by the way. I think you probably jump off here and then ride the wall. That's my guess on what's the fastest to do there. But the reason why I don't think this one's that good, even though you take that turn so fast, is because you have to get onto this right path. And that means staying in the water longer and taking a horrible turn. So yeah, I don't really like this one. Plus, it's very hard to do and risky. If you feather at slightly the wrong spot, which, by the way, my feather spot looks like this. I'm just like at this grate, trying to align slightly to the right so that the furthest point of where I'm pointing at is the end of the rail. If you do it slightly wrong, this is what happens. So I'm just gonna like make up an angle here. I got it. I'm just gonna make up an angle that doesn't work. Look at what happens. It's so risky to go for that, which is why I think like that's probably one you shouldn't really go for, even though it is really cool. On Koopa Troopa Beach, if you have one mushroom, then the main shortcuts you want to be going for are these two. So one is at this Cheep, you left drift, charge jump, and then mushroom and just go over like that. I didn't do it quite that well, but yeah, that is your first option. And then your other option is this ending shortcut right here. This is also very big. So yeah, those are the two main spots that you want to use single mushrooms if you are in a front running or a middle spot position. Let me just quickly see if I can do this one a little bit better. Left drift at the Cheep, charge jump, aim for that little grass right there. Yeah, that was definitely way better. Now, an important thing to note for Koopa Troopa Beach is that it is a bagging track. There are a lot of shortcuts, and going forward may not work so well for you. So if you're in the back, try to get an invincibility and a speed item. And ideally, you want to chain this invincibility item into the first item set on lap 5. And that way, you'll stay protected. Whoever has the shock probably needs to get rid of it so that they can start using their mushrooms over here. You know, they're probably not going to shock you at this point. Maybe they will, but this is the safest bet you have for strategy on Koopa Troopa Beach. Faraway Oasis has a very complicated looking rail strategy that gives you a faster path. But I will show you the easiest version you can do here, and then you can add on tricks as you go. So first, you want to grab these 2 coins. At the tip here, where there's a double item box, you left trick off. Then you trick off before the ending, do a neutral trick. Aim for the base of this rail. Just ride this rail. And then in the middle of this segment, you left trick off. And then that puts you at the top path, which is way, way, way faster than the bottom path. Of course, even faster with all the extra tricks added on, which I will show you in a second. Then anytime you have a mushroom, you have to take this shortcut. Biggest shortcut on the track by far. All right. Now we'll do the more complicated version, and there are multiple ways that you can do this. So I will start by showing you what you should typically do if you are in first place, which is the double coin, double box strategy again. So here we go for an extra trick here. Left trick off this, and the wall and back, on the notch, trick off of this, and get onto this rail, and you can do one extra trick, and then get off here. Perfect. Okay. Oops, I used a mushroom. Now I will show you the faster and potentially safer way. It's just faster by a little bit, but if someone could back like a green shell at you, or you don't need these coins and the double box, very unsafe, you just get off this rail early, and then that gives you a little bit of a faster route there. And there you go. That's this path. All right. There is a double mushroom shortcut. I'm sad I used my mushroom. All right, now if you have 2 mushrooms, then you can actually still go for this strategy, but then after the end here, you don't go on the rail. And you can get extra water tricks here, then just mushroom through this, and then mushroom through this. Pretty much just cancel your drift. And yeah, it's a really awkward section to do with 2 mushrooms. Definitely takes practice, but that is faster than the top path if you have extra mushrooms to spare. But of course, if you have 1, always just take this one. Now, Faraway Oasis also has a feather shortcut, and it's just this one shortcut at the end here. You can take it with a feather. You want to start more right, curve in, and then just jump over like that. You can cut off so much more than with the mushroom. And one more tip that I have for Faraway Oasis is if you think that you're not safe in the final waterfall turn, especially on lap 3, don't cut it tight because you will fall off the track if you get hit. You'll want to take this turn a little bit wider, which is much, much safer. On Peach Stadium, the most important thing is this shortcut at the start. This saves so much time. You just go through it and then hold a drift and wait till you get a rainbow mini turbo, and that's it. That's the most important shortcut on Peach Stadium. If you have extra mushrooms, you definitely want to be saving it into the next lap. In fact, when you play Peach Stadium online, the strategy that I recommended a few times, which is to don't get the start boost or get a weak start boost to make sure you get a bad spot item at the start of the race, you definitely want to do this on Peach Stadium because that difference in time is made up immediately. You can actually do the strategy, and if nobody else does it, you might be in first after the first shortcut, and you just have 2 mushrooms. You can dodge a blue shell, you can save this for the next lap. It is a really, really good strategy. Now, if you have a feather, you definitely want to take it over this shortcut because this shortcut is just that big, but you can actually save the feather for a different spot later. This is a really nice intended feather shortcut, and it's really easy too. Just feather on the boost panel, trick in the air, and then you can ride this around at full speed, whereas if you drift on the ground, it's a little bit slow. And there you go. On Peach Beach, as you go into lap 2, you can do this little charge jump shortcut. It doesn't save that much time, but it is pretty cool. But you mainly want to stay as safe as you can and try to get mushrooms for this shortcut near the end of lap 2, on the final turn of lap 2. This shortcut is gigantic and has an item in it. You can also take it with a feather, but I won't show it because it is pretty easy. Then as you get to the final water section, there's also a shortcut here on the left, which you can break the boxes with a mushroom. You can also, of course, jump over them with a feather. And then, yeah, for the rest of this, it's like very, very simple. You kind of just drive and dodge items. Honestly, a strategy that has worked really well for me on Peach Beach is to not get the full startup boost or avoid the startup boost altogether so that you get a bottom spot item in the first set, and usually you'll get triple mushrooms. And then what you can do is just try to save this all the way until that big shortcut near the end of lap 2. And yes, that sounds ridiculous, but it does work because of how big that shortcut is, and I've literally gotten into first just off of the triple mushroom pull. So yeah, that's definitely something you want to consider, as there is only one shortcut that's big on the entire track, and the rest is just straight lines. I never liked Salty Speedway too much because it just feels so weird to drive, but once you're good at it, it's actually really fun. So yeah, I'm excited to teach this one. You want to start with a charge jump to the left, and then trick. And the second trick comes as soon as you touch the water. That way you avoid turning in the water, which is really slow. You will always want to avoid turning in water if possible. And then next up, this trick you may not even know about, or if you did, you probably miss it like this, and the reason is because you don't actually want to trick on the white ledge part of it. You want to trick on the red-orange part much later. If you notice, I tricked much later there. This way it is 100% consistent, this trick. Right there. Okay. Next up is the water section. This part, don't drift much. Just get your little bounce tricks, but steer in as straight of a line as possible. Get these, and then one blue mini turbo. That's all you get. That way, that section is way faster than doing a bunch of drifting. Then you can use a mushroom here, and there you go. Huge shortcut. You can also take that with a super horn. Then you always want to take this section right here up here. That way you naturally get the little bounce that sends you up here again. And then next up is the more difficult way to drive this track. You can charge jump onto this wall, go all the way over here, and then stay up here, get this little trick like that on the rail, get your 2 coins, get a double item box, and then you can do this, and this, and this, and all of this stuff. Oh, I'm so excited. This is such a fun track, and there's still more I haven't even talked about, so let's talk about how to do all that. As you approach this wall with a charge jump, it's very important that you don't aim too far left, because watch this. I can't make it far enough. And in fact, the more left you go, the bigger that problem is going to be. Yeah, so no speed at all. Now, the reason why this happens is because when you are on the wall, your trick boost needs time to accelerate you to full speed. Then once you're at full speed, you can fly over. So what you need to do instead is get all the way over here, and then now your trick boost has time to accelerate you, and now you will properly fly over at full speed. Now, there is another thing you need to worry about, which is once you make it over there, you need to then manage the way that you're taking this turn, because a lot of things can happen. See, I just fell off because I didn't brake drift. I need to press B a few times there. However, that's not always the case, because sometimes what's going to happen is you're going to fly a little bit too far, and if you brake drift, you'll lose your drift in the grass. So there's a lot of improvisation that's going to have to happen there, because you're always going to land slightly differently as you get to the top there. So you really need to improvise well here, and don't brake drift too much, but also don't fall off the edge. And the next part is actually quite difficult. So you charge up a mini turbo and you want to avoid the boxes and aim for the double rail. However, it's not going to act like a rail, and it's going to act like a wall. And like all walls, if you hit it too directly, you will not attach to it. So you can't go too directly at it, but you also cannot hit the boxes. So you have to get just around the boxes and still hit the wall at a decent angle. Then it's going to quickly turn into a rail. Then once you're on the rail, you can left trick off of it. And the difficulty does not end there, because if you want to take the fastest section after this, then on the first rail here, you want to trick pretty much when the flat rail turns into the upward rail. You cannot trick too early or too late, and as soon as you land, this takes some experience to know if you landed at the right spot. If you landed in the wrong spot, do not go for the next shortcut, because you will fail it for sure. But if you landed at the correct spot, you need to immediately right trick. And before you even hit this post, you hold left. That way you're going to make it onto the tree. But don't hold left for too long, because before you hit the tree, you need to hold right again in order to align yourself to the right. And this is the fastest way to take this section. This is all really difficult, but it can be very, very consistent if you practice it a lot. Now, you can't always take this charge jump, because people can definitely bump you and it can be really chaotic, or you just get hit. And so if you are taking this bottom section, there is a shortcut you can take down here as well, which used to be the fastest path. And that is to align for this post. Yup, and then just drift around here. And then the rest is the same. Yeah, so this one, I don't feel like I need to explain it too much. It all comes down to the alignment. It's entirely in the alignment, and it is 100% consistent if you just always hit this mini turbo trick into the post. And yeah, I can do this every single time. It was really tough at first, but now it is a lot easier for me now that I'm more used to the physics of where mini turbo tricks will launch you. Okay, I kind of failed it. That's what I get for bragging. But of course, the beauty of Salty Speedway is that there are always more paths you can take. And so we're going to do a charge jump right here, just like before, but then immediately start charging another charge jump. And then that puts us up here for a little water bounce trick. And that puts you in a trick boost during charging that charge jump, which is faster to get up to this path. We're going to drop back down because I want to show you something from the bottom path. This is something that Troy, TWD98, taught me about. And it's a glider path. So here, turn right, hit the wall. You can even air trick before the rail, trick right before the end of the rail, get your little orange mini turbo on the wall, 3 coins, and there's going to be an item there, and you're on a glider away from everybody destroying each other. You can even align for this shortcut right here. Yeah, and part of why that's really good, not just because you're safe from everyone, also because if you get hit in a glider, you actually don't lose as much time as getting hit, especially in water. In water, it takes forever to accelerate. Now, there is another way you can do it from the bottom path. This, I would say, is not as worth going for, just because it's really easy to fail this. So if you're going for glider, just take the normal path, but you can do this. Oh, okay. Yeah. I try to align a specific way. This is not something I would usually go for, so I expect myself to fail it sometimes. But if you hit this post, you actually can technically still get onto that glider path, but it is really difficult because of the way that you land. So let's give it one more try here. Oh, okay, I mean, that works, but like, is that even a shortcut at that point? If done perfectly, it works, but if you're trying to go for this glider, I recommend taking the bottom path. There's a really good feather shortcut at the end here, and you don't just go over the boxes, which don't exist in free roam, but they should be there. You go onto a rail, and then you trick onto the next rail, and this is really cool. And then you can then combo it into the beginning sequence. And this feather shortcut is one I learned from Wadsum's video as well. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm not showing all his feather shortcuts, I'm just showing some of my favorite ones that I think are quite easy to do. Now, this one is a bit tricky though. You don't want to aim towards like, you know, head on with the rails here. You want to go pretty much tangent to the rails like this. So you're pretty much parallel to where you're going to be going onto the rail. Then that's a lot more consistent. And yeah, you can even get on the wall there. I don't know if that's useful, but it's cool. Be creative. Back to the scene of my trauma and my victory. Yeah, what can the former world record holder tell you about Dino Jungle? Not much. My strategies are all outdated, but I'm pretty good at this track online, so I can tell you a bit about it. And one thing you want to go for right at the start here is this dinosaur's neck, or back. So you can get some extra tricks here as you go up this rail. That's part of what makes this so fast, and then trick off here and prepare for the shortcut. Okay, so a lot of people have asked me, how do you get the tricks on the dinosaur's neck? Because I just fall off. And yes, that is a good question, because if you just right trick randomly, you could fall off the dinosaur. See how there are dips in the dinosaur's neck? You want to right trick when you get into one of those dips. That way, before you can even launch off the dinosaur, it will catch you again on its rail. So if we just watch carefully right here in the dip, right trick, and then, yeah, there you go. So while that is the fastest path, in a lap 3 situation, or if you're unsafe on the rail, you want to take this path, which also has a double item box. The dinosaur only has one item box. Okay, then this shortcut, very important. If you just mushroom in, you will lose a little bit of speed at the end because the shortcut's slightly too big for one mushroom. So what you want to do, the easiest thing to do, the short strat, is to mini turbo early, drive in a little bit, and then mushroom. This will take you out completely at full speed. Then you just do these tricks, and that is very, very fast. But there is a new development on this track, which is a little bit faster, but it's harder to get just quite right. So what you want to do is mini turbo in, and then charge jump as you mushroom, and then hop out at the end. Now, then I mess up the tricks as I come out of it, so that's not something I go for yet, but yeah, just do the short strat if you want to have a very consistent, fast way to do it. This shortcut is very, very important, and again, just like Peach Beach, a strategy that I recommend at the start of the race is to go a little bit slower so that you can get a good first item, and if you pull triple mushrooms, you could be set for the rest of the race. Because what's going to happen is you take this giant shortcut and either you're in first or the only people who are still close to you are other people who have taken the giant shortcut. And you all have triple mushrooms. So you are all relatively safe. You all want to keep it and use it for later laps. This strategy has worked really well for me on this track. Now, since the mushroom shortcut short strat is technically outdated, I want to show you all a new short strat. As far as I know, I'm the one who invented this, but yeah. This is a feather shortcut that you can do on this track. And you come out at full speed. Let's go. The new short strat. The most important part of the strategy after you get onto the rail, you know, these tricks are just extra, but the final trick, right before the rail turns right, you have to trick to the right, and then you will hit the wall, but then detach from the wall immediately, and this launches you to the right. Then use a feather and just trick to the right, and you get to come out with some of your trick boost. I actually discovered this when going for the Dino Jungle world record, but I tried to use a mushroom instead, and because my handling was so low, I couldn't quite get the right alignment. However, with the feather, because you stay in the air and you can right trick, you can actually come out with perfect alignment. So I was disappointed when this strategy didn't have potential, but now you can do it with a feather. And just in case you were wondering, if you didn't do the strategy and just did the feather normally, the best you can get is something like this. And like, this is somehow still half a second faster than going around, but a full second slower than the short strat. So definitely worth learning the short strat. Great Question Block Ruins is such a fun and technical track. And for a lot of really good players, this is one of their favorites. And I get it, it's one of my favorite too. This beginning shortcut is absolutely massive. If we just take a look first by doing the regular turn, look at how big that shortcut is. So yeah, that's something that you definitely want to go for whenever you can. And here's the safest version. If you are learning it for the first time, this is how I recommend doing it. Mushroom in, get an orange mini turbo, and then release it onto this rail, and then trick here, then land on this rail. That's the most important part, landing on the next rail. That way you can take the next turn really tight too. So it's not just good for that shortcut, it's also good for taking the next turn at full speed instead of at sharp drifting speed, which is quite slow. Now here is a more difficult version of the shortcut. It is the fastest way, but it is highly risky, and if you don't do it perfectly, you fall off the track. Looks like this. Like that. Okay. Yeah, and then the rest is the same. So the way that this shortcut works is once you're far enough right to actually touch the hill you need to trick on, then you need to start turning left. That way you can trick from the hill onto the rail. So there are multiple things happening here, and if you don't make it just quite right, you will actually fall off the track. So here, let me show you what it looks like to fail this, as I have many times before. Yep, you just fall off the track. That wasn't even that bad of a failure, and you're just off the track. There are other variations of that shortcut. I'm not going to cover them now. There's a lot of ways to do that. But if you're not going for the shortcut, then here is one strategy you can use. You can hold a charge jump as you go off this, and then charge jump left here to get onto this. Very, very important for taking that turn tight. However, that is very susceptible to bumps, and so is the next version. But here are just some of the options that you have. So you can also charge jump earlier and just charge jump off of this spot, and then that works too. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to take that beginning section. Super important because you save an incredible amount of time doing all that correctly. Now the next section is where things start to get interesting. Now here we have the famous Great Question Block Ruins shortcut, and it looks like this. Oh yes, I think I got it. Oh, I barely made it. Okay, that wasn't my best work, but let's see how to do that. Okay, before we get to that shortcut, just quick little thing is that I hope you've noticed that what I'm doing here actually truly is very consistent. I'm trying to get as many of these things to happen all in one clip as possible, and I hope it's not like annoying that I'm showing you the rewinds and I'm just rambling in between, but I'm purposely trying to do that so that I can show you that like these are things that are consistent. They're gonna help you win. They're not risky strategies that you should never go for, and if they are, I will tell you and then I'll recommend against it, you know? But yeah, these are all things that are supposed to be very consistent, and if you practice, you will be good at them. Now, going into this shortcut, there are 3 different ways that you can go, and I'm going to show you the safest way that you can approach this, and then we'll look at the other options and their benefits. So the safest thing you can do here is just go for this trick, get this, go through the coins here, and then from here you want to charge jump, aim for this ring, and then you touch the ring, get on this wall, and just trick off the end of the wall. That's it. I'm making it look a lot easier than it is, but honestly, like, if you think this is the hardest thing ever because it's the coolest thing ever, I don't blame you, but it is a lot easier than it looks. It's not easy, but it's easier than it looks. So the latest you want to start charging that charge jump is around the last coin, and then you go off near the end, aim for the ring. It's not too hard, but right before you hit the ring, you want to start holding left. This way, it'll move you as close to the wall as possible while keeping you away from the cloud. You don't want to touch the cloud. Then once you get onto the wall, you just want to ride up the wall a little bit before tricking off of the wall. And I mean, that is really it. Other than that, it just comes to experience with how tricks move you through the air, because you will get different alignments. You will not do this perfectly every time, which means that you need to use tricks and use your aerial drift to move you through the air so that you end up where you want to. I don't have much to say about this besides just go practice it a lot, because you need to encounter a lot of errors before you start doing this one right. So that's the main way you want to take the shortcut, but here are some other paths you can consider to take sometimes. So right here, if you go for this rail, you get 1 extra coin. And it could be worth it, it could be risky, it depends on the situation. And then everything from here is the same thing. And there you go. Okay, so then there is one other method, and this is the method you've probably seen before in clips. This is a crazy version of the shortcut that it just looks nuts. But yeah, you go for the right rail here, and then you trick, and then hit this thing, and then now without a charge jump, you can use your trick boost to get onto this section. And then the rest is all the same. So there you go. Those are the 3 methods for taking this shortcut. Now there is one more thing you can do if you are coming from the more normal section here. I don't personally do this, but so I don't know if I'll even make it here, but you can do a mini turbo trick. Oh man. Okay. Yeah, this is what happens when you haven't learned it. You can do a mini turbo trick and then align for this. Yeah, there you go. And that, I don't know if it's faster or not. Like, I kind of messed it up afterwards. It's definitely tougher to align, so that's why that's not the one I go for. So I will do some more explaining for this hard version of the shortcut because there's a lot going on here. Aiming for this rail is tough. I recommend you learn from experience, but once you land on the rail, you want to trick near the end of the gold segment. Then trick again near the top. Then the rest shouldn't be too different from before. Just make sure you aim to leave the ground around this part and trick late. You will get less airtime than the other ones, so you have less time to correct your alignment. So for this shortcut, I know a lot of you will be trying to learn it, and it's going to be something that you make a lot of mistakes on. So I want to show some common mistakes and how to fix them. So one mistake, let's just chart jump onto here, is hitting the cloud. That, oh, I saved it. Okay, but usually if you hit the cloud, you will fall off. And the way to avoid that is if you are aligned towards the cloud because you're taking this line, then right before you hit the ring, you actually want to start turning left. And then you completely dodge the cloud. Okay, then now I messed up. But yeah, that's the idea. And another thing that could happen is you get to the ring, and then you can't quite make it onto a high portion of the wall. Now, again, the reason for that is because you didn't start turning left in the air. Start turning left in the air there. Then, like right before the ring, turn left in the air, then you will make it. So one thing you'll probably run into if you try this method is you may end up going too high. So if this happens, you go way too high, and then like now you don't have enough trick boost and you can't even make it to the ring. So what you should do if you find this happening to yourself is you'll start to notice early on, you can tell when you're about to go too high. So if you're about to go too high, just let go of A. You'll drop down a little bit and that'll give you just enough speed loss to still make it through the shortcut perfectly. Now, Cheep Falls has this shortcut at the start, which I am not even going to bother too much with. This is something you can do, and I didn't hit the rail there, which is optimal, but like hitting the rail is optimal, but not getting it is still quite a bit faster than going around. That, I believe, in theory, can be 100% consistent, but I'm not even going to get into it because don't bother. What you should do on this track is bag and take the final shortcuts. Don't drift, just steer, and then drift into this shortcut, and then get a trick as you come out. And then here, don't drift as you hit the water, and then just go through there. So those two shortcuts combined save 6 seconds. And so imagine trying to front run this track and someone gets 2 mushrooms and then just like passes you by so much. So yeah, definitely want to bag this track. When playing Cheep Falls in actual races, it can get pretty silly because of how big those two shortcuts are, but they are not easy. Like, they are 100% consistent, but make sure you go into time trials and actually practice these because these are definitely two of the most important shortcuts in the entire game. They're right at the end of the track, they save 6 seconds, and they're not that easy to do. The physics of them are so weird that there's not that much I can tell you besides just go into time trials until you figured it out, because like it's actually tough. Or actually go into free roam, so when you rewind, your mushrooms can come back. But what you mainly should be doing on this track, if you're in a high level room, or even in lower level rooms this can still work, is you want to use a shock dodge item right before the final item set. If you get shocked before this, you can still grab an item, and you can still take the shortcuts. It's not ideal, but it works. If you get shocked after this, that is the worst because you just mainly want to avoid getting shocked after this because you have to keep your mushrooms and speed items to get through those shortcuts. And of course, if you have the shock, you can also just use it at this item set, and that's also a really good strategy, and make sure to save it for lap 3. If you use the shock any earlier, you will allow everyone to grab items here and take the final shortcut, which means you lose 6 seconds compared to what you could have done instead. Dandelion Depths is relatively simple, except you don't want to be missing these tricks. See that? That's very, very common. What you want to do is trick as you get to the top of the ramp. And then now for this section, as long as you hit these tricks, you can actually just trick and steer. This is extremely fast. what I'm doing here. Even though I'm not drifting, not getting mini turbos, that is a very, very fast way to take that section. However, it is technically a little bit faster to get your mini turbos, but you have to be really good at aligning them, because if you look, if I'm not doing them quite perfectly, I'm taking really bad lines, and this is not necessarily faster. So if you're just starting learning the track, definitely just trick and steer. Now this ending shortcut's super important. Make sure you have a mushroom. You can even charge jump onto this boost panel for a little bit less airtime. And then you just want to cut not too much there. See how I came out of the shortcut early instead of taking the best line? Now, if you have multiple mushrooms, you can definitely go for the best line, but otherwise you can easily lose your drift in there. So yeah, that's just something to pay attention to. Take a bit of a smaller shortcut if you only have one mushroom. So Boo Cinema has a shortcut right at the start right here, which you can take with one mushroom and still grab an item box. But other than that, you pretty much just follow the track, and there's not too much that you can do. But of course, it's a very chaotic track, so make sure you stay safe and stay away from the lines that other people might take. Now this section is interesting because you see the reel on the left here, you can see how it's moving forward. So obviously we want to go on this because it's going to help us go forward. But on different laps, it moves in different directions. So you want to pay attention to that and either go on or not on it, depending on the situation. And then, so right here, this one is going backwards, right? So we want to stay off of this one, and the optimal path here is to just go right next to it. All right, then there are some special tricks to do at the end here. These can be a bit tough, but you want to stay as far right as you can, and then you can actually trick off the coin area. I missed it. I'll try it again later. Then you can trick right there, and you can trick right there. If you stay as far right as possible, that makes it easier. All right, now we can see the very first one is going backwards, so we want to stay here. And you want to look at the pictures of Peach to figure out where it's going. And then this next one is going forward. So now we can go on it, but make sure you get off soon because there's a little wall coming up. And then now, let's try to hit these tricks again. I think it's actually easier when the coin is there because of the little speed boost. But yeah, the further right you stay, oh, I hate this one. I shook my controller. It worked this time. Shaking your controller doesn't always work, but yeah. There you go. Dry Bones Burnout starts with a charge jump shortcut. So we're going to charge jump onto the wall on the right here. Look out for bumps. So wait for the orange mini turbo to charge and then just trick off of it, but then get the right trick afterwards so you don't hit the lava on the left. Now what happens after this glider is super duper important. So there is going to be an item box right here with a double item. And if you don't have mushrooms yet, you probably want one right here. But if you do have it and you're okay with your items, you can come onto this rail. Oh, I did not have enough speed. You can come onto this rail and then hop off right here. Now the left path is faster. And the fastest way to take the final shortcut is like this. You trick onto the wall, then don't trick. Trick in the air. Don't trick. Trick in the air. You can trick off of that. I didn't get it. And then you can trick off of that. I didn't get it either. So not too important, those tricks, but yeah, that's how you take the final shortcut the fastest way. Now, when you're playing Dry Bones Burnout online, the ending of the track is extremely important on lap 3. And the reason is because it has one of the best shock spots in the game. And so if you have the shock, you want to use it into this item set. Grab an item and go. Everyone in front of you loses their items and cannot take the final shortcut, except only you can. Plus whoever dodged the shock. So you want to be one of the people that dodged the shock. So if you are coming up to this with a star, you would want to drive through here and use the star through the item set, and then hopefully shock happens. If not, at least you're safe for a while. Like, you're safe all the way until this point, and then you can just go take the final shortcut. Now, if you have an item that you cannot chain into the item set, you can still do the same thing, but you probably just want to use your dodge item like right here, and then just take the rail. So if you have a Mega Mushroom, Boo, Bullet, you'll want to do something like that. And then you'll be safe for a while. If someone shocks you here, you know, nothing you can do about it, but you're preparing for the worst case scenario. And yes, we got a feather, so I will show you the feather shortcut right after this. So the feather shortcut on this track, you approach it similarly to the mushroom. And so I'll just quick review for the mushroom. You air trick here, and then you air trick here, and then you mushroom through. But a feather isn't quite enough. So you do it very similarly, and you probably want to rewind to this point to get the practice. You still get the first air trick, but once you land on the platform in the middle, you just feather off of this part. Trick in the air, get onto this wall here, and then ride the wall. Now you can perfectly skip that entire shortcut. Very important from first place. Moo Moo Meadows has a lot of really fun shortcuts, and I love the way that they changed this track compared to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Like, it's so much more interesting now with the hills you can trick on, and also the shortcuts are more fun. It's just a longer track now. I think it makes a lot more sense. So first we have this shortcut right here. We charge jump at the tree, like that. Trick towards the tree. There we go. That is a crazy one. Love that one. Then on the left here, you can see that wall coming up. That's how you know where to mushroom into and get an orange mini turbo. And of course, if you have like a golden mushroom, go crazy over all of this. But there is one more single mushroom shortcut. You can trick right there, mushroom, and then get a mini turbo as you come out. All right, I need my mushrooms back. So the last two were pretty simple, but let's talk about this first one because it's more difficult than it looks to aim exactly where you want to go. And I'll show you what the alignment should be. So see how I come off this ramp? If I head towards the tree, I will directly run into this white line. This is not where you want to go off of. You want to go off the white line just to the side of that, to the right. And if we just rewind here and see if you can find it again, okay? Just as I go off the ramp, see if you can find it where it's going to be. See the one directly between me and the tree? It's this one that you go for. All right. So thank you, RTAT120 Rod, for teaching me how to do this one. So once you get here, you want to charge jump and basically charge jump to the left and mushroom at the exact same time right here when you're mostly facing towards the tree. It's okay to be facing slightly right. All right, so here we go. Charge jump, and then same time, left trick in the air, and that pushes you a little bit more towards the tree, and that's it. If you do all that correctly, there is a lot of room for error, so you should get it as long as your macro alignment here is good, like that. All right, yeah. So this is very consistent, but if you struggle to get this one, especially in a real race where you have to stay away from people and your alignment may not be perfect, what you can do instead is, so avoid the hill on the left, but also charge jump to gain a lot more air, and just charge jump over here, and then drift and mushroom through. So that was the fastest version to take the shortcut until people discovered the tree shortcut. If you are in the back on Moo Moo Meadows, there are a lot of shortcuts to catch up, so don't worry if you get too far behind, and if you are in front of anyone going into the first item set on the final lap, you want to try and dodge the shock here. This is because at the next item set, this is where the biggest shortcut is located, and the item boxes are so far to the side. So whoever's using the shock is probably not trying to skip this shortcut, which means the best spot they have to chain it is just the first item set. And then hopefully by then you've saved enough mushrooms to get you through the ending. There are more shortcuts than you probably have mushrooms by this point, but it can still be a big advantage to do the bagging strategy on Moo Moo Meadows. Choco Mountain is now truly Choco Mountain because there's actually a lot of chocolate. It's very appetizing too. If you go into the chocolate over here, this is a mushroom shortcut, but if you don't have a mushroom, you will slowly sink in, and now you are covered in chocolate. So you can take these shortcuts with a mushroom, and you will not fall in. So like this one, and then this one's technically the biggest one on the track. And then here, we have another big one coming up. So there's one on the left here as well, but then there's another big one on the left here, and this skips a really big turn. Now, this one is not the biggest, but it is pretty big relative to if you want a double item box, which is all the way to the right side of the road here. So yeah, look at how big that would be if you didn't need the double item box. Keep that in mind. I'm not just saying that randomly. There's important stuff to know on this track. Now, the fastest path here is to get a trick here, and then trick here, and then stay close to the chocolate. Uh-oh. Yeah, that's not going to work. Sorry. The cycle is bad. And then get an orange mini turbo here. And then just align yourself onto the rail. Don't release the orange mini turbo. The game will just release it for you. And then there's one more shroomless shortcut here at the end, which you can only do on lap 2 and 3 because you're coming from here. But start wide and then do that. And you actually make it through that shortcut shroomless. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do front running here, but this is, again, a bagging track, as you may have noticed, because there are so many shortcuts. Now, if you're playing Choco Mountain in a real race and you're in the back, then an example of what you could do is try to get your shock dodge item in the second slot and a shortcut item in the first slot. I mean, if you have 2 shock dodge items, you're pretty set, but starting lap 3, you can try to take the first shortcut with your speed item, grab this item here, and then we can ignore this next shortcut, because what we're going for here is to ignore the next item set as well. And then what we really just want to do is the next item set is going to be on the right there. We just pretend we chain into that, but use our dodge item here. And a lot of dodge items cannot even chain into the set, so it doesn't really matter. And then you can take shortcuts right here. And then hopefully you're out before the shot can hit you and launch you into the chocolate. And you're just really safe for a lot of the most important shortcuts. And then, so the ending, there's no shortcuts here. It's pretty chaotic, but at least you hopefully would have passed a lot of people getting into this section very, very safely. That is one of the best strategies on Choco Mountain. Toad's Factory is definitely an interesting track. I don't feel like it's that complicated, but there's a lot of stuff you have to worry about with items. So I'll just give you some general tips here. On lap 1, you definitely want to go for this green path because you're risking it to stay as much at the front as possible. But on lap 2 and 3, you definitely want to consider avoiding this path. Partially because if you're in the back, you might need items, which you can find on these side paths. And also, this is the path that blue shells, coin shells, and everyone's boomerangs are going to take. And bullets, so you probably want to get off of this path if anyone is near you. Now, there are some other things to watch out for on lap 1. This green path is going to start on the right side and then end on the left side. So this is pretty consistent on lap 1. On lap 2 and 3, you're going to be on different cycles, so it really just depends. But then you want to get onto this rail, and then right trick off onto this rail, and then right trick off onto this rail, and then onto this path, and then... That's something you definitely have to practice. I didn't do it perfectly there, but that is very important to go for on lap 1 because of the cycles, of the bulldozers. They're going to be very favorable for you to take that. There is also one little trick you can get right here. If you bounce just right, yeah, there you go. You're not tricking off the ledge like you are for every other thing here. You're tricking off the little bounce you get after the ledge. It doesn't always happen, but if it happens, good for you. That's something you want to look out for. Okay, then if you do have a mushroom, of course, you want to go off the right side of this boost panel and just drift and mushroom through. Now look forward. Look for the boost panels. You need to find these, otherwise you're going to lose a whole bunch of time. So as soon as you enter that shortcut, start looking for the boost panels. And if you don't see it, that means it's just around the corner instead of the one that you can see. While Toad's Factory doesn't exactly have enough shortcuts to be counted as a bagging track, there are definitely benefits to bagging online. And this is something I've done very often. Toad's Factory is so chaotic that you naturally find yourself so far away from first place. And there is a really good shock spot and therefore a really good shock dodge spot. And that is at the final item set on lap 3. You may have noticed a trend here. There's a shortcut coming up after this, and there's a long portion of track after the item set before the finish line. So if you get shocked after this, you don't have an item for the rest of the race, and you cannot take the shortcut. And if some players are so far ahead that they got shocked in the off-road without being on a boost panel, then they will very, very, very slowly creep forward. That's part of why this is such a good shock spot. So if you have a shock dodge item, you definitely want to use it into the final item set of lap 3. Bowser's Castle has some of the coolest shortcuts in the game, and I'm so excited to teach these ones. This is what I was really looking forward to in making this video. This definitely just one of the most important shortcuts in the game, if not the #1 most important shortcut. Okay, I did it really weird, but it worked. Great. I'm probably never doing it like that again, so I'm glad you at least got to see a really botched version that still made it and saved multiple seconds compared to going around. We'll definitely see a better version soon. But let's see if I can make this one. This one's also really cool. Oh, that was so weird. I still made it. Nice. And then there's this one here too. And all of these are difficult, by the way. Every single one of these. Okay, let's teach how to do them. So for this very first shortcut, there is another method to do it. I will show it here, but I do not recommend going for this method. Let's see if I can even... Oh! Let's see if I can even get it. Sorry. I never get this, really. First try? Oh, yeah. I'm not even going to try to make it. I've made it before. You can watch clips of it. But the way that you actually want to do this is by going onto this rail here. So it's like a charge jump, wall jump onto the rail, and then jump off, jump onto the blue sticker, onto the blue sign, and this is pretty consistent. I make this one most of the time. So I'll first explain to you how I do the shortcut, everything that's going through my head, and then I'll show you some pitfalls you could run into and how to address them. So on the second ramp, you trick off and then hold R to charge a charge jump. You want to get onto this part of the wall, and then right after you cross the line on the wall, you jump off onto the rail. Then you right trick off of the rail at this corner, and then you go just slightly past this dark line on the wall, and then left trick off. You aim for the blue sign, and again, you don't trick. hitting the blue sign will auto trick for you, and then once you're launched into the air, now you spam left tricks. And it's a lot, but it is the easiest and most consistent version of the shortcut. It saves 2 to 3 seconds depending on how well you did it, and even if you fall into the lava, it's not much slower or about the same speed as going around. So it's definitely worth learning. All right, let's look at some common problems you may run into and how to fix them, because these are things I ran into over and over and over, and hopefully this will help you nail these shortcuts faster than I did. So one problem looks like, yep, you launch too far off the rail. And the reason that's happening is because the trick boost, when you're on the wall, the trick boost is accelerating you. And when you get accelerated by a trick boost, you go faster and faster. So if you wait too long on the wall, you're gonna jump off at an extremely high speed. So you have to jump off early before your trick boost has fully taken you to top speed. So if we take a look at what I do now, after passing this dip on the wall, I immediately jump off. And you see how I barely needed that magnetic effect? And then the rest is history. All right, let's look at some other problems you could have. So another problem looks like this. You do everything right here, but then you hit the red sticker and everything's so weird. You need to hit the blue sticker. The reason why this is happening is most likely because you're not jumping off the right part here. You want to jump off right there. See how I'm right above a little marker on the rail, the little blue marker? So if you jump off right there, you're good. And then you can do everything else properly. But if you jump off too early, then what happens is you cannot get enough airtime, and then you hit the red sticker and everything is bad. So yeah, make sure you jump off exactly at that little marker. Next problem looks like this. You still hit everything correctly. Oh, I still kind of made it. That's crazy. Sometimes, like, it's unexpected. Sometimes you just make it. But what's happening here most likely, like if you hit everything super fast and everything is just weird, probably what that means is you jumped too late off of this wall. If you jump way too late, you still hit the blue sticker, you still might hit the blue sign, but you still fail it. So let me show you where you should be going off. So if you look at where my trail markers end, you want to jump off right after the shadow right there of this big picture. And you can see sometimes I tried to go way too far, but yeah, right after that shadow is where you want to jump off. It can be tough to see in the moment, but just aim for it and you'll start to get the hang of it. You'll hit the blue sticker, the blue sign, and then you will make it across most of the time, and sometimes it'll be super weird. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So yeah, that's a super important shortcut to learn. Even if you fail it, you still save time, or you still go about even, so it's definitely worth learning. Now, this is a shortcut that I struggled with for a while, and I'm a lot better at it now. That wasn't even that great of an attempt, but I'm going to tell you exactly what I learned here because it is so easy to fail this and not know what you did wrong. So, first of all, I trick early here, and then look at how much air I can get. That's a much better attempt. Now, I'm going to point out 2 things you are probably doing wrong if you are failing this shortcut. Okay, so you want to trick early off of this part, and then next up, you want to get enough time on the wall for the trick boost to accelerate you to full speed. That's the opposite of what we were doing on the previous wall. Now we want speed. So you trick off of this, stay on the wall as long as you can before tricking off, and you get just so much airtime because you're moving at a high speed. Now, I'm going to show you a failed attempt to demonstrate to you exactly how this happens. If you trick off right away, see how that's like no airtime at all, right? That was a really early trick. So that's one problem. Another problem you could be having is you're going too parallel. If you go too parallel to the wall and try to stick to it like this, then you also don't get enough airtime. And what you want to do instead is when you're in the air, about to approach the wall, you hold left. So you can try to angle towards the wall. So here you hold left, and then, okay, I didn't get enough trick boost, my bad. Let me try that again. Again, I'm not 100% consistent with this, but I am pretty consistent with this. So yeah, early trick, hold left, let the wall accelerate you, and there you go. So yeah, that is now 100% consistent for me, like, as far as I can tell, because anytime I fail it, I know exactly what I did wrong. And I probably get this like more than 80% of the time now. Hold left, let the wall accelerate me. There we go. Barely made it, but it's all good. Next up for this shortcut, this shortcut is actually really tough until you know what you're doing because it just has some weird physics to it. How you want to do this shortcut when you're approaching it with the mushroom is you want to start with a left drift and then trick. This will align you really well, and then you can just mushroom through it. But one thing you may not have noticed I'm doing in this shortcut is about halfway through the shortcut, I release my mini turbo. Even though it looks like I can charge a full orange mini turbo in there, I'm not doing it. Because if you try to do that, you will get a horrible alignment out of the shortcut and you can actually fall off the track. So again here, I'll tell you when you release the mini turbo. Now. So it's basically right in the middle of that shortcut when I need my King Boo to change direction. And then final tip here is if you are approaching it straight on or you're using a lower handling combo, like a high speed combo, then you want to do a little bit of brake drifting right when you land, like this, and then go for it. Everything else is the same. That shortcut's really tough when you first learn it, but it's definitely super consistent once you actually know how to do it. So yeah, good luck with the Bowser Castle shortcuts. Let's see if I can make this one. Oh, that's so weird. That's probably the weirdest one I've ever made. I'm glad you could all see that. But if you have a feather, this shortcut is completely free. You do not even need to practice this, just watch me do it. You just like aim here, just feather, and it's completely free. It saves more than 3 seconds, and there's no way you mess this up. You can go all the way over here and then just left trick and you correct it. So yeah, if you're in first, you ever have a feather, you're worried about being hit by a red shell, just take the shortcut. It's worth more than potentially getting hit by a red shell. When I first started playing Mario Kart World, Acorn Heights was definitely one of those tracks where I was like, man, this is so crazy. I have no clue what I'm doing. But now, hopefully you can get an idea of what you're doing. So the boost panels on the right are good if you want coins, but the inside path here is faster. And there are coin rails on the left and right, and also this middle rail for a shortcut is the fastest. However, they're a bit unsafe because you can get bumped or hit off the track, so don't take those otherwise. Now you take the right leaf and then the left leaf. Now what you do next depends on your item. If you have a mushroom for the mushroom shortcut, then you should take what I'm about to show you, but otherwise I'll show you a way you can take that without a mushroom. So you want to go down this one, and then don't trick off the end, trick on in the air, and then trick off the end of that leaf, hold a drift, and you can mushroom through here and get an orange mini turbo as you come out. Next, you want to take these rails right here, and you want to trick at the first coin, trick at the first flower, and then trick at the second last flower. So first coin, first flower, second last flower. So if you don't have a mushroom, here's how you can do that shortcut shroomless. But there's a lot of stuff you have to remember, so we're just going to go through it one by one. So right here, you trick over here, and then right at the second last flower, you're going to trick left. But before you watch me do that, I want you to pay attention to something, because it's very simple what I'm about to do after that. Every single time I naturally detach from the wall, I shake the controller. That's it, okay? And I hold left the whole time also. So at the second last flower, go over here, detach, shake, trick, detach, shake, trick, and then you can trick off of this. And it is perfectly consistent. I will risk all my aura right here just by doing it again. As long as you're at a low coin count, actually, it is perfectly consistent. Shake, trick, there you go. Okay, so if you're at a low coin count, I don't actually know what counts as low versus high, but I'll show you what happens if you're at a high coin count. Okay, I have achieved a high coin count, and I want to show you what's going to happen here if I try to go for the shortcut the exact same way. So we go here, we trick off right here, and then shake trick whenever I detach. Look at that. Yeah, I'm shaking the controller, but it just won't trick, and by the time I'm allowed to trick, I've already hit the wall, and you cannot ride a wall if you have not tricked yet. So that it simply doesn't work. And I've got it to work sometimes, but don't rely on this. So what do you do then if you have a lot of coins? Well, I can't 100% endorse what I'm about to teach you because I'm not 100% consistent with it, but here's what I do. It looks like this. And that gives you a bit more time to get that shake trick. Again, you do need to shake your controller. So what I'm doing here, it's pretty simple. You neutral trick off the very end here and immediately start holding left and spam trick. And then that puts you right on that line, and then you can do this. So as long as you get the hang of when to hold left, then you're pretty good. It's right after the neutral trick. However, If you go too high, this can happen. You hit the leaf. That's what happens if you go a little too far left against the wall. So if you notice that's about to happen, there's actually a backup strategy that can save you from running into that leaf. Okay, so let me show you exactly what the visual cue is. So right here, if you look at my tire tracks along this wall here, you can see where I'm going. And see how there's that that thinner line of rocks along the wall where my tire tracks seem to be crossing, and sometimes I'm going above it and sometimes I'm going below it. Okay, so that is where you want to use the visual cue. If you go above that thinner line of rocks, you are going to hit the leaf. If you go below it or on it, you're good. So what happens if you notice you're going above that line? Well, here's what you can do. If you notice you're about to go above the line because you went way too far left, sorry, I'm intentionally trying to fail this. I can't always do it. If you notice you're about to go too high, you can jump off the wall early and you end up here. And this is slower, but it's still pretty good. You still get to take that shortcut. And just keep in mind, every variation of this shortcut skips the item box. So only do this if you're pretty sure you don't need the item. Otherwise, just go for an item. Look, I'm going to be honest, I'm not that good at Mario Circuit. I get good results here sometimes. It's usually pretty decent, but it's all from bagging. So I can't really tell you like a lot of the good advice for driving. However, I will tell you some bagging advice, and usually at the start, I just grab coins. So if there are shortcuts here, I don't know them. I don't take them. I just grab coins. And then I try to get some good speed items as well, but you got to make the comeback not too late because this track is really short. Watch this. We're on lap 2. Now, there's a really big 2 mushroom shortcut right here if you want to front run, which is to mushroom here, and then mushroom again, and curve around that, and then release the mini turbo before you come out of the off-road. Then you want to get a double orange mini turbo at this point, and then go between the pipe and the wall with your mini turbo. Don't drift into the off-road, you immediately lose your drift. You want to release that orange mini turbo right before entering the off-road. Now, on the final lap, I know there's some cool charge jump stuff you can do onto the little wall railings there, but not too concerned about it. At this point, the first and second item set of this lap is where you want to start chaining your shock dodge items. And then right from here is where you want to start spamming all your shortcut items, and this is a really big 1 mushroom spot. And then there's another big one right here at the end of the track, but I have run out of mushrooms. So yeah, that's how I play this track. It works pretty well. You just have to don't get too far behind because it is quite a short track. All right, we are on Rainbow Road. And yes, I know what you're saying. You have no clue where we are right now on Rainbow Road. It's too long of a track. I get it. I'll tell you exactly where we are. It is the very first split path where you have a choice between left and right. Always choose the right path on Rainbow Road. Always. Every single one. But then here, there's a really cool gap jump shortcut after this right turn. Watch this. Just like that. Easy. Okay, that is completely shroomless, and that's something that you always want to be taking. And there's actually a secret that makes it perfectly consistent. But let me show you that is consistent first. Like that. Oh, I almost failed it, but that's pretty much as bad as it gets. Now, let me show you what it looks like to do it wrong. And see if you can spot the difference before I tell you what it is. Oh, I didn't quite make it. Okay, so the difference there is the angle that I approached it. So if you're trying to just take the shortest line possible, just like this, you will fail it. What you have to do actually is also consider the amount of airtime you're going to get. And if you go straight like this, you're actually, well, the more left to right you go, like if you go like this, you're literally moving downwards. And the game will consider that and give you less airtime. But if you go this way, the game will think you're going upwards and give you more airtime. So the secret to making this shortcut every single time is right at the end, turn left. So right here, turn left, and then as soon as you trick, you can go back to holding right. And so you want to turn left as much as possible to get the maximum airtime. As soon as you're in the air, that doesn't matter anymore, and you can just switch to holding right. So turn left, and then like that. Wow, do you see the distance I cleared? That was so suboptimal, and I somehow still made it. Yeah, so that is something you have to do. And just one more time, I'm going to show you the wrong way of doing it, is just going straight. If you just take the straight, shortest path here, you're not going to make it. Not even close. You have to turn left. Okay, so one more successful attempt, and then I will move on to the next section. Turn left, like that. Oh, barely made it. Okay, that's good enough for me. I think I was really scared I was going to fail that one. That would have been embarrassing. Next up is, there are a lot of off-road shortcuts on this track, and almost all of them you can very easily see with your own eyeballs. So I'm not going to tell you about those ones, but this one right here, after you get this trick, then you just drift here and mini turbo trick using a mushroom. Kind of failed that, but I don't want to go back. Next, here's another little hidden shortcut. This is a pretty big one, actually. Yeah, now, like I said, split path, always pick the right side. And there is another little shortcut here you can take with a path switch after taking the right side. Here you just switch to the left side, and it is faster. I believe that's the only path switch we're going to be doing on this track, but there is one more cool thing you can do a lot later. And so I'm just going to drive all the way there. I will spare you with a jump cut. Oh, in this glider, if you want to get the double item box, you want to left trick a few times to get over to the left side, because the double item box will be there. Just an important thing I'm surprised I haven't mentioned yet today, which is that if you trick in a glider, you actually get to move more in that direction. Okay, the next technique I'll show you is going to be glider related, and let's just see if I can get there. Again, split path, take the right side. Sorry, I'll shut up. Alright, after this super neon section, as you go into this warp star, this is very recognizable. As you go into here, hold down on the glider, and it will help you just go up a little bit. See how we're going up next? And then once we're like this, you can just forget about it. And this is actually something that really mattered. I lost a race to Liam because he knew about this and I didn't. And so, you know, small time saves, very important in Mario Kart. Alright, split path, turn right. I'm done with this. This track is too long. Oh, but Shortcat, I don't get to play 3-lap tracks because Nintendo ruined online worldwides. Well, here are 2 ways that you can consistently play 3-lap tracks in Mario Kart World Online. Just check out either of these videos.